All right, welcome everyone to Black Swan Revelations. My name is Shane, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about tomorrow's episode. Tomorrow we are going live at about 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And the reason why I timed it for that time is because Donald J. Trump is going to be on Joe Rogan. And usually those videos get uploaded about 11, 12 o'clock my time, and they usually go 2-3 hours. So I wanted to time this so that at 2 o'clock when people are actually done watching the actual podcast, that I would come up after that, and then it'll be fresh so that we can talk about what Donald said on the Joe Rogan experience. So I think that'll be fun. I think it'll be interesting. I'm going to invite some guests, so you never know who's going to be available. I'm reaching out to Josh, I think, from End Time Talks. I think he might be coming on the channel. I'm going to put a request out to Bob to see if he has any time. If he has a couple of minutes for little old me to come on the show as well. And then I'm going to reach out to a few others. So we might have a panelist. We might have a group of panelists on there, very similar to Rev 5 on Sunday. So again, they're expecting huge numbers, eyeballs watching tomorrow's episode. There are rumors that he could hit 1 billion within 24 hours. 1 billion viewers. So we'll see. We'll see. For sure, that video is going to get a lot of hits. For sure. And because I watch a lot of Joe Rogan's podcasts, you know me, I watch a lot of Donald Trump stuff. I covered a lot of the assassination attempt back in Butler, Pennsylvania. I've been following some of the interviews with Elon and Trump. And then also, of course, I follow Elon and Jordan Peterson anytime they have things to say about the election. So we're going to be talking about specifically the podcast tomorrow. So if you're at all interested, watch the podcast before you come live onto this show. If not, we're going to catch you up to speed real quick. We're going to catch you up to speed. So if you don't have time to watch a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast, we'll have the Cole's notes for you at 2 o'clock. And if for some reason the show gets uploaded a little bit later, then perhaps we might watch some of it together. So we'll see. One of the interesting things that I hope comes up, and this is, I don't know if you guys have ever read this book. I bought this book back in 1990 something. And I don't know if you guys understand this. Maybe it's different now. Maybe it's a little bit different now because CERN is actually reactivated, I think, about this time, maybe a little bit earlier. When I make fun of CERN, whenever I talk about them, I'm always talking about multiverse, multi-universe, multiple planets, all that kind of stuff. And we joke about that a little bit on this channel. But if you don't remember this, it's probably because you're living in another parallel universe. So I'm going to share with you my universe and see if it matches up with yours. Donald Trump used to be a big deal once upon a time ago in the United States of America. A big deal. He used to have a show called The Celebrity Apprentice, and celebrities from all over the world would trip over themselves, well, specifically in the United States, would trip over themselves to be on his show. Everything Donald Trump touched turned to gold. people wanted to be his friend. So if you read this book, there's one chapter in this book where he talks about when you become popular, when you become famous, people go after you. They go after you. But what they don't realize is there's another chapter where Donald talks about the idea that if somebody comes after you, you go after them 10 times worse. So if somebody destroys your car, you go after them and you destroy 10 of their cars. That's in his book. So the reason why I want to talk about a little bit about the podcast tomorrow, a lot, I should say, we're dedicating the whole show because I think this is going to be a bigger deal coming down the road leading up to the election of the United States. Because again, I live in Canada, and there is so much political upheaval going on, not only in the United States, but in Canada as well. And we see it here in Canada. We see there's all kinds of shifts and changes going on. And I think it's going to stem a little bit from this podcast as well. People will be talking about this podcast. This is the Michael Jackson moonwalk. This is Michael Jackson showing up at the, what was the awards, the Grammy Awards or Motown, I think it was. And nobody had ever seen the moonwalk. And Michael Jackson did the moonwalk and stunned everyone. I believe that's what's going to happen tomorrow. Something's either going to get said, a question that Joe Rogan's going to ask. It's going to capture a lot of people's attention. Believe you me. And again, because I've read all his books or most of his books, the idea that if somebody makes fun of you or tries to come at your family, they come against your family, they try and break you down in court, tie you up with allegations, all kinds of stuff. They come after your wife, all this. Don't think for a second that Donald Trump isn't keeping track of all these records. Don't think that that's not what these people do in power. If you think Joe Biden doesn't do that, he does that as well. Both sides do that. They keep a track. I'm not saying they go out and make people disappear, although that could happen. You have to understand that they're not going to be dishing out any favors when they come into power. So if Donald Trump becomes the 47th president, if you hated him during the election, don't think you can come to him for favors, obviously, unless it makes business sense. But don't think he will forget you if you try to bring him or his family down. He can make your life miserable. We're talking about one of the most powerful people on the planet. So if you cross him during the election or even leading up to the election, you better believe he's going to be taking numbers, taking names, writing down numbers, and all of a sudden those people are going to be having a difficult time come January. I think the opposite would be true as well, like just so you know. But the only reason why I can bring this up is because it's in his book. It's in his book. He's talked about it a lot. If somebody comes after you, you go after them twice as hard. And I've watched interview after interview where people are saying, this is not Donald Trump. This is other people saying, if I was in his situation, I would do that very same thing. I would exact revenge on the people that tried to hurt me. Now, we can use Christianese and we can say, Donald Trump, turn the other cheek. But you do understand he's not a Christian, right? You do understand that most politicians in the United States are not Christians. And they're put in a position where it's every man for himself. That's a gimme. Like in the government, same thing. We got the liberals, we got the conservatives. It's every man for himself. If you don't believe this, if you think they're just going to be caving in, say, yes, I'm sorry, all this stuff, that's not how they run the world. It's not what they're going to do. So it'll be interesting to hear what Trump has to say and the types of questions that Joe Rogan asks. And I don't think Joe has a dog in the fight, so I think he can ask legit questions. He also has to be mindful that his employer, or one of the guys that he makes the most money from, is Dana White, and Dana White loves Donald Trump. So Joe Rogan has to be careful. He has to be careful from that perspective, because just because you're on top of the world with social media, you could be at the bottom the next day. You could be erased the next day. So I don't think Joe is quite there as being untouchable as much as we like to think that. But I think this is a brave move on his part to do this. I don't think he has a dog in the fight. And I think Donald Trump has everything to gain. I'm actually surprised that Kamala Harris didn't try something like this earlier, because maybe that would have helped her. But we know that it's very difficult for her to speak. It's very difficult for her to answer questions. And I'm not gonna call her names and all this kind of stuff, because it would be unfair of me to say things like she's an idiot, she's stupid, she can't read. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna be that guy that calls her names and says that she has basically the flavor of the day seems to be salads, word salad. Whatever we've done today will be what we will do tomorrow, and it's only because of what we've been doing since today moving forward to tomorrow. It'll be the same as today and yesterday, what we're doing. So if we can all do the same thing together and be the same, it'll be like yesterday, but it's tomorrow. So if you understood anything, that's Kamala Harris. That's how she speaks all the time, and I can see her doing that over dinner table. Anytime anybody asks her a question, could you pass the ketchup? Ketchup used to be in tomatoes. That's how we got ketchup, but tomatoes are really little ketchup bottles inside tomatoes. And this is why we have ketchup, because ketchup is actually catching up to the tomatoes. Just pass me the ketchup, for crying out loud. Just give me the ketchup. I don't need any of your word salad. That's who Kamala Harris is. So tomorrow, again, I'm not going to go very long here. We have a panel. We'll most likely have a few guests. Don't know who they are yet. It's going to be fun. I encourage you to watch the Joe Rogan podcast whenever it comes on tomorrow. I'm thinking it's about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Seems to be when those episodes get uploaded. So I think they're actually taping right now. I think they're actually filming it right now today. There's rumors that there's probably going to be a lot of paparazzi outside the office where Joe Rogan does all his recordings. So that'll be interesting as well. But before we go, let's jump into some of the audience here and see some of the questions, see what people have to say about tomorrow. Let's see here. Who do we have here? We have Laura Hyatt. Good evening. Are you from Australia? Is it evening there? I guess it's afternoon. You guys are probably at 5 o'clock, depending where you are, 6 o'clock if you're in the east. Aunt Jemima's here. Welcome. And Gina. Welcome. Say hi to Gary for me. Pam is in the house. Who else do we have here? Only me. Only you? I think there's more people than only you. And then we have another Pamela Swan. Great last name, by the way. Great last name. Who else do we have here? Paul. Welcome, Paul. Welcome. Usually I like to do my welcomes at the end of the video. Kevin, brother Kevin, perhaps you can join me tomorrow if you have a little bit of time on your hands tomorrow afternoon when we go live. All right, let's see here. What else is there? That's pretty much it for today. So what I would suggest is click on the notification bell. It's so important because if you don't click on the notification bell when I go live, you won't know. You won't know. You'll miss it, and you'll be like, "Oh man, this could have been life-changing." You never know what we say on the channel. Like, you just never know. You never know who's going to be a guest. We have people that just randomly pop in. Could be Robert Breaker, don't know. Could be Pete Garcia. Can't speak for him, but I got to reach out to these guys. Maybe they'll pop on for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Don't know. It's happened before during the day where I'll have a show, a live show, and then all of a sudden Pete Garcia's on. And this might be an interesting topic for him because he's in the military. So it might be interesting. And then obviously with end times and all this, Robert Breaker would be awesome to have on here. And then, of course, Bob Barber to wrap it all up with a nice bow. So again, I'm going to reach out to them, send an email out. So I hope I get a few people as panelists tomorrow. I know Josh had mentioned he's going to try and make it. So we got one. And then maybe Kevin, maybe brother Kevin, if he could show up tomorrow, that would be awesome if he's not too busy. I know he's a busy guy. But I'm trying to let you guys know ahead of time. This is the whole goal here, is to give you enough notice, because I know my mom gives me heat. She's like, dude, you got to tell me when your show's on. Don't just pop it on like this, because I want to watch. And she takes notes and she gives me feedback on the show. Did you slouch? Did you speak up? Did you stutter? Did you stammer? My mom's hard on me. It's hard on me, but she's one of my number one fans. So I'm trying to give you guys as much notice as humanly possible. So 24 hours from now, less than 24 hours, we're going to be going live talking about Donald Trump on the podcast with Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience. And in case you guys are wondering, I did reach out to Joe Rogan. I did reach out to him. I just said, hey, if you have no topics, if you run out of topics, I would love to have you as a guest on my show. So just, I did that for you. I did that for my audience. I did reach out to Joe Rogan yesterday. Hasn't got back to me yet. So I did tell him, hey, maybe check your spam folder, because perhaps that would be the only reason why he didn't return my email. I know he's busy right now today. So I'm maybe a little bit disappointed that he didn't at least send a little reply saying, hey, I got your email today. I had to stop interviewing Donald Trump in order to reply to you. That's maybe what I was expecting. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Maybe that's a big ask. But I felt I owed it to you, the audience, to reach out to Joe Rogan and invite him on the Black Swan. So I did that for you guys. I did that for you. All right. That's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys. And I will see you in another video. Bye for now.